The U.S. government has been caught off guard by the ousting of Egypt's first democratically elected president by a coup. That's according to human rights groups who say this is the moment for the administration to start getting its Egypt policy right. The White House has come under fresh fire for having got too close to the now former Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi at the expense of democratic reforms. The deepening political crisis in Egypt has unleashed a growing sense of alarm in Washington. CCTV's Nina Mari reports.
Well, the ousting of Egypt's first democratically elected president presents a real test for the Obama administration, which to some extent has been outpaced by events on the ground. The White House now says it is studying what this coup might mean, whether in fact it's a genuine coup. This amid mounting calls for the U.S. administration to cut its military and economic aid to Egypt. Analysts say that despite what members of Congress might want, it's actually not something that the Obama administration necessarily wants to do, because up until now it has refused to cut economic and military aid to Egypt.
It's premature to suggest that we have taken steps, we're thinking about taking steps. I'm not going to get ahead of course, events on the ground, but clearly assessments would be made based on the facts on the ground and choices made by all parties.
Well, the dilemma in Washington has been divisions between those who have supported former President Morsi in the hope of long-term democratic reforms and those who have been calling for his removal for months. And that really reflects the dilemma that Washington faces, how to find a middle path in positioning itself in Egyptian politics. Charles Dunn of Freedom House is one of 43 NGO employees who was convicted by an Egyptian court as part of a crackdown last month. And he says that the administration's mistake has been to align itself and get too close to the former Egyptian president.
You see, for example, the NGO case playing out. The administration was very active in the early days when there were 8 Americans who were being essentially prevented from leaving Egypt. Once those Americans were out, the level of political attention to that case went way down. That's very frustrating. When there was the constitutional declaration by President Morsi last December, in which he essentially seized all executive and judicial powers for himself, the administration's reaction was very muted. And that sends, I think, a very incorrect message. So yes, I mean, there's a lot of frustration, not only for myself, but other people who follow Egypt closely, that the U.S. has been missing opportunities to really help advance the democratic transition.
Well, with the situation in Egypt so clearly in flux, some experts are saying there's very little that the White House can actually do except to wait and see how things pan out in Egypt. Other analysts are saying it's time for the Obama administration to take this opportunity to stand back and to start standing up for democratic principles and not choose favorites in what undoubtedly is about to become a very complicated political landscape in Egypt. Nina Mari, CCTV in Washington.